Talking about struggles, stuck in a bubble. BaseVybez, this is real life. BaseVybez, we chill. BaseVybez, when we talking, we been for real, answering all your questions. BaseVybez, a place to speak of mind. BaseVybez, we chill. BaseVybez, we for real. BaseVybez, speak of mind. BaseVybez, we chill. BaseVybez, we for real.
Welcome to BaseVybez, a place where you can actually speak your mind, where conversations with bass and vibes with you in mind. I am your host, Wendy, and this is your host,
T. Shenarigan.
And we are here because we want you to be able to speak your truth. We're here to answer questions that you typically kind of don't feel like asking, like either your elders or your friends or something that's a little bit more sensitive. We're going to answer those questions for you today, okay?
And today we definitely have a wonderful, beautiful, intelligent, smart lady here. She is my sister. She is not only my sister-in-law, but my sister's sister. So she is joining us on the show today, a special guest. Please introduce yourself to our audience.
First of all, thank you for that beautiful introduction. Always. I wish I could hear that all the time. But I guess because we're on TV, we get those beautiful introductions. My name is Stephania Chambers Adebayega, and I'm so honored to be here.
Amen, amen. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. So tonight we are definitely, as you know, we're diving straight in. Today's conversation is going to be around today's parenting. I know a lot of us are talking about it, you know, what's going on inside, outside, our kids, our home, our school, you know, just everything in general. But we're focusing on parenting today.
Yeah. So we're just going to dive right on in. And plus, you just said your name. Did you want to add any more about like your profession, where you're from, what you like to do?
Sure.
On the spot.
Okay. I'm a teacher assessment specialist. I am from Virginia, by the way, of so many places. My accent changes according to my moods.
Just like Virginia.
Currently I'm working on my doctorate in educational leadership, and I enter pre-doctoral status next year. I am the mother of two wonderful, handsome gentlemen, and I'm the wife of one very, very handsome man, and that's it, right? Overseer of Christian Outreach Ministries.
All right.
And that's it, right?
You know, parents, you know, I got to interject for 1 second. You know, I just want to interject for 1 second. Just because today's show is focused on parenting, right? So we have a parent up here that's trying to make her, you know, her sons like they are perfect. We all know this, kids. They are bad as God knows what. I'm just saying, okay? I'm not talking about her. I'm talking in general.
Don't talk about her kids.
Okay? You know, we're going to be real today, okay? We're not going to sugarcoat anything, you know. We're going to put these kids and label them exactly what they are. Well, I'm just playing. But honestly, she's gentle. So, gentle parent. She says she's a gentle parent.
Well, you actually highlighted one of the things I read. I read a study about African American parents versus Hispanics versus white, right? And the African American or minority said that the most important thing in their life is parenting, right?
That's true.
The people or the minority group that said it the most were Black people, African American. The people who said it the least were white. Now, I'm not saying that's good or bad. That's not what I'm saying. But it's different perspectives. Right?
Because there's a lot of factors that plays into that.
It's a lot of factors. So, you know, when you're talking about parenting, there's times when you just really say, you know what? Forget this. I don't feel like doing this no more. This is crazy. That was today. It's crazy. So, and so I wonder, what are the differences between the different ethnic communities? Why would, and it's not everyone, this is just a study, but why would Black people or Hispanic people say, the most important thing are my kids, us being a parent, versus white people would say it's important, but I have other important things in my life as well. What do you feel like the difference is?
Well, for me, being African American, being a true 1,000% Ninja boy, okay? Let's remember that. Honestly, it goes back into the culture.
Yeah.
Regardless of how you look at it, culture is instilled at a very early age. From early childhood, culture is the first thing that's being taught. And not just, Africans, we also see that in other ethnicities, like, the Asian culture does the same thing.
No. The Asian culture were with the whites when I read this study.
Oh, wow.
Which was surprising to me because they really, and specifically the Koreans, they really honor like their elders and their parents. Like it's a big thing. So being the child is a big responsibility and things like that. So I was like, that's different.
That must have changed over the years because that's one of the founders' things that the Asian community does, just like the African, Latinos, instilling those cultures at an early age. For me, primarily as a Nigerian, even at an early age, we have conversation with our parents like, don't you dare put me in a nursing home. I am not going to a nursing home. I am coming with you. So, it's a value and an understanding that we pretty much carry and saying, okay, as the scripture said, honor thy father and thy mother. We literally took that literally as in, okay, after God, your parents are up there because think about it. They sacrifice so much for you, up to the point where you can, branch off on your own. So why not do the honors when it's time and, pay them the same respect? Mm-hmm. So that's one of the things that I've seen and witnessed within my culture to be able to say, okay, my parents are up there.
Mm-hmm. And I think I have to agree because I think that with the Asian or any other ethnic culture, it's more of a social parenting in which, like you said, we honor elders, we honor mothers. We're more of we want us to be raised socially, whether non-ethnic cultures focus on, I want to focus on my child individually, your individual success. But ethnic, we want to be able to make sure that because we are raised with the respect, that we want to make sure that we are providing for our elders, providing for our sisters, taking care of our brothers. If you're the oldest child, it's almost as if you take on the responsibility of the mother and the father.
Yes.
Whether non-ethnic cultures, these kids, you would think that they were just as grown as the parent. And I don't want to be typical, but you can see that in a grocery store sometimes. And you can see they have different types of shorts. Like, that was my child. And we hear and we say that a lot, but a lot of times we have to realize, even in the educational sector, people were raised differently.
Right.
And you have to embrace diversity. Now, what you do in your own house is your own business, because I wish my son would. Okay, now.
But I thought you said you was a soft parenting type.
I am. Okay. I softly get.
Well, you know what? That's a hot topic, though. That's a hot topic, you guys, because they're talking about soft parenting now. Right. And, like, that's the 2024 trend.
I think there's got to be a balance.
I was about to say, what is your definition of soft parenting? How do you feel about it? Is it impacting, the Gen Zers right now? Like, what are you thinking?
What do you think? Because
you're in the education field, you see some stuff.
Not only that, I came from a whole different type of race.
Okay, so which generation are you? Gen X?
I don't even think we have a number.
You don't have one.
No, I'm.
So you're in between.
Oh, dang.
We didn't have a number.
You don't have a generation.
I don't have a generation.
The lost generation.
No, we're not lost. We have a foundation. Don't get it twisted. Don't get it twisted. We're not lost. It's just that it's different because we weren't too worried about what other people thought. It seems like this generation is more about how they portray themselves. Social media, texting, they lost the type of interpersonal relationships. And when I found with parenting, I had to change up because in the beginning, I had lost like communication with my son. I knew my children loved me, but I felt the gap. And as a mother, that's hurtful because as you see your child grow up, you want them to be able to talk to you, to communicate. Because when times get rough, you want them to be honest. You want to be there. And I didn't have that. I had to change it up quickly if I wanted to keep my son. And if I wanted to make sure he was okay. So I had to learn that it wasn't do as I say. I had to learn that I had to kind of still be laying down the rules and still make sure there's structure, but explain to him this is why. And it was unusual to me. And I had to call in the help of the, what generation are you? XYZ, elemental P?
Very late millennials.
Millennial generation.
I mean,
We are the late millennials.
I know, but you could have just, put
Very
it as
late. Very, very.
You could have just said millennial.
Very late.
You have to put very, very late.
But I had to call in the help because I didn't want to lose my son. And I changed it up, and then our relationship became a little bit more solid. And then he's able to communicate with me because when you get to those teenage years, as a single mother, we need them to communicate, especially if they hold stuff in.
What did you do to get your son to communicate to you?
Well, before you answer that, I do want to revert back to what you said a second ago, which is actually so valuable, especially in today's society. A lot of parents don't truly understand how to communicate with their kids, but rather finding a balance and reaching out. A lot of people don't. So they continue to try to force the issue of the best way they know how, which might not be the best way to, close that gap with the child or with the youth. So you did an excellent job by reaching out and saying, you know what? I might not be able to relate to my son the way I want to, have that breakthrough to be able to get to him. Let me get someone else I might be able to. So a lot of parents really don't understand how important that is nowadays. Just letting someone else come in to get through to their child. So that way he can now step back and say, you know what, I never looked at it from my parents' perspective that way. But now that you have told me, okay, I kind of understand where my parents come from. And it creates a platform where you can be easily have a conversation because now you seeked out the help. He or she understands this is how you feel. So I commend you for reaching out where you just thought like, hey, I don't want to lose my son. I need help. I think a lot of parents should definitely do the same and reach out when necessary.
And the one thing I can say is once I saw how my son was interacting, I had to go back and be like, okay, what is he doing that I'm not doing? Now, it's already a problem because I'm female and mom, and he's male. So I will relate emotionally where he will relate logically. And the one thing I had to do was listen to him. I was so busy telling him what to do and why he should do it. I never gave him a chance to speak and say, Mom, this is what's really happening. I'm hurt by this. I thought it was something else, totally different. But I wasn't listening to him. And I was like, well, golly, it's almost as if having a relationship with your partner.
It is a relationship,
Had to
That's
take
a
my
good reference. That's a good reference.
I was like, if I was married, you have to learn how to communicate. You have to say, okay, so when I'm hearing you say, well, hear me out. You have to have them be able to talk to you and articulate it without going off because I had to build the relationship back up with him again. He had to learn how to trust me that I won't first start yelling and screaming and he won't be heard. Because he'd rather be quiet and be like, forget it. Okay, Ma. Okay, all right, Ma. And then go in just to have my mouth be closed. And I could see it and feel it.
So is it biblical when it said be slow to speak but quick to hear? Or is that just a random...
No, that's biblical,
biblical?
too, yeah.
But they ain't have my kids, though. My kids won't back.
But here's the thing, though. Like in our generation, well, when I was growing up, very, very, very late millennials.
We got that.
It was more of you do as I say and you be quiet. You
Exactly.
keep your place. And stay in a child's place. You be quiet. If you're in a room with adults, you better not get into that conversation. You're supposed to be quiet. That's how we were raised. But now with this generation, it's, hey, they want to be heard. They want to tell you, but they need the space in order to say it. Listen to them and hear them.
I think, to me personally, I hear what you're saying, but I think the difference between our generation and the new generation, it's just a simple theory. Parents wants to be friends with their kids. Yeah. Parents don't want to be parents anymore. Mm-hmm. Back then, you weren't even literally taught that, okay, you don't speak when we're speaking, you don't do things. No, it's just something that you automatically know, because there's a distinctive difference when it comes to parenting and me having fun with my kids. But now it's just, I want to be friends with my kids. I don't want the kids getting mad at me. I don't want to, instill the structure that they need for them to understand the difference of when I say no means no. A lot of parents are not really taking that initiative to really draw that distinctive line because they're afraid of, oh, my kid is not going to talk to me anymore. He's not. No, make it clear, so. Our generations, it was clear without even speaking a word. We know, mom, dad talking, I'm going to stay until they finish. I don't even need to say, excuse me. I'm just going to wait till they finish.
But I think there's a fine line, right? And there may be a little bit of gray area. There can still be black and white. I'm still your mama or I'm still your dad. And you're going to respect me as that, but still creating a space to hear them. There's a fine line to that.
I'm not saying don't hear your kids. I'm just saying,
right.
But
there's a defined difference, because what's happening now is people don't know the difference.
Yeah.
There's no boundaries, and everyone knows I'm an A and B person. Like, I have my boundary. I have set times, and I talk about that all the time. But if you don't have a boundary, then you're going to end up with the child in the grocery store that's telling their mama and daddy to shut up.
And that starts not when they up here.
Right.
It starts
and
down
don't be
there.
trying to discipline them in the grocery store.
You should
Betty
do that
Lou
at
was
home.
doing that at home.
That's right.
So there's got to be a fine line with that. So that was good. So it sounds like you created that space to be able to hear and listen. One of the things I read on, I think it was like an Instagram meme, it was like some questions to ask your kids. And they said, what do you think about a lot? Ask your kid, hey, what do you think? Just random. What do you think about a lot? And so I asked my youngest son, and he said, football. And he said something else that was just random. I said, okay, all right, that's fine. And I just leaned into it. I asked my older son, I said, what do you think about a lot? He said, sports and the future. I said, well, what about the future? He said, I just wonder, if there's going to be, how much it's going to be inflation. Am I going to be able to afford things? I wonder what the world's going to be like. Is it going to be too much trash? And then I was thinking, when I was 14 years old, I wasn't thinking about that.
Times are different.
So they truly have problems that we did not have to worry about when we were younger. So that's something we got to think about as parents.
You brought up something when you said about the structure. And I can't speak for others, but I know as far as when I was being a single parent. And if you're a woman raising boys, it's hard. It's hard because not only are you, they say, well, woman can be the woman and the man. We can't. We can set structure. We can set some type of foundation. But at some point, when you're that one person that's in that fight, by that 12th round, boys know how to wear you down. They know how, that like any typical man, ladies, they can learn how to manipulate. They can learn when to ask for something. Sometimes you have to call. I don't care what people think. These are my opinions. You have to call in other men to help you come in and lay that foundation and that structure, because I didn't know everything. Right. I didn't know. I knew how to relate to my son as a mother, but I did not know how to cater to him as a man. I can only be able to set foundations that is standard, but those things that he needed to grow as a man, I couldn't instill that because I'm not a man. And we need that. That's the difference. Yes. Back in our day, we may have had them, even if it wasn't mother and father, it was uncle. It was men were made available then. Right. Yes. Back in the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, they were there. So now I see a lot of young people who miss the mark of not having that male interaction in the home. And then you end up with kids, you can tell in that classroom who's a two-parent home. Mm-hmm. You can tell in that classroom. And if they don't have a two-parent home, you can tell people who've had some type of foundation and structure. And you can tell how the children interact. You can tell how they speak with one another. You could tell during playtime. You could tell even how they greet you, how they treat other adults. There are some kids that they will put their hands on him and tell them what they're not going to do, and they will talk to you as if they were 40-something years old. Then you have some kids that come in and was like, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. And generally, those are the kids that come in that's raised by the nanas. And then you have other kids that come in and want to help the other children. And those are the good citizens. And I'm not generally speaking, because you have kids that come from single-parent households that, can be opposite of what I'm saying. But typically, you can tell the single-parent household children.
I mean, because it's a lot for a single parent. By the time you juggle all your responsibility as a parent, then have to really take the time to assist and develop, which is, every parent's responsibility is to develop their child, in a way that when they grow up, they would have the basic instilled in them that they need, as a general necessity. But one of the biggest things that I think it's important when we're talking about parenting is, as you said earlier, the communication. I think it's very important that communication is instilled in our children, in both ways. Like you said, just ask them random things just to get them engaged. Mm-hmm. Another thing is consistency. Whether you're a bad mom, bad father, good, be consistent. There's no point going back and forth because that confuses a lot of the youth. Be consistent in whatever decisions that you want to make so that way they see that consistency in their household.
What if you disagree with your partner on the parenting style?
Could you repeat that question?
With a smile?
What if you what?
What if you disagree with your partner on a parenting style?
That is a conversation that you and the partner needs to have. Again, it always revolves back to communication, right? So you can think one way, I can think one way, but it is always best for you both to be on one accord before you actually introduce that to your children. Because if you're not on the same page, the kids are smart. Mm-hmm. They'll pick that up and they would use that against you.
But there are times where just as parents, you say and you do communicate, but it continues to occur. Let's just be honest.
It does.
It does.
And
that's difficult, especially with the first child. The first child, you don't know what you're doing.
Right.
Maybe not with the second or what have you, but when you have a disagreement with your loved one, or may not even be in a relationship, you're like, no, it should be this way. What do you do? And when you can't reconcile that?
Compromise. Everything's all about compromisation, right? Okay.
And each child is different.
Definitely.
So what you might feel may work best for that child because it's easier and you feel like it is better because they're more receptive of it may not be what's best for that child. And in what you feel that may be what's best for the child because you could see down the line may not be what's best because of how you communicate it. So when you say compromise, you can have the same effect of both parenting styles, but how you communicate it and relate it is the compromise part.
So what you're saying is basically know your child.
Know your child.
Because you can't really assist that child without knowing who that child is, what their likes are, what their dislikes are, or how to communicate with them. Okay, what do you say or do that triggers that child to be either productive or non-responsive? So I like that.
I am really playing devil's advocate today. So does that mean that you have to get your child out of the room and you have to stop scrolling on your phone to spend time with your child so you can get to know them? Or do we typically just keep them in the back bedroom and that they're in their room? I got my room. I got my space. I had a long day and
Text you and talk to you?
no, you cannot text someone and get.
No.
That's the dating series. We just talked about that. Go back
wait.
to our previous video.
I'm gonna have to press pause, press and rewind on that. Because what I have learned now, when a sister tired, I'm tired.
That's true.
And I need that because I need the space to debrief myself so I won't take it out on my kids because I'm just even each parent. But it's not the amount of time, it's the quality time that you spend. And I've learned that.
But I think you're saying that because your kids are of age. What about for the parent that they have a little 3 or 4
They
year
were
old?
always of age, though.
She can't disconnect and say, you know what, I'm tired, right?
No, but what he's saying is the younger kids. Let me rephrase that. Excuse me, because it's on parents. The parents are sticking the games and YouTube in front of their children's face to give themselves a break, and they don't get to know their kids.
Oh, you're talking
and
about
all they're
that.
doing, and they're just stuck in front of a TV. That's all they know, and you're wondering why your child is not talking to you. It's because your child
It's
probably
being
doesn't
taught by
know
YouTube.
you, and it's being taught by YouTube.
Your child is
YouTube,
going to YouTube
TikTok,
University.
and Instagram, they're their parents. And so what I'm just trying to say, take the time. It doesn't have to be every day for 5 hours, but I don't know if some people are really taking time to sit down, put everything aside
You made a
to
good
get
point.
to know their child.
But that can happen. It doesn't take a long amount. Your morning when you get up and you have your conversations on the way to the bus stop. That's your time. You want to, and if the child, because remember it's a different generation. So back in my day, it was double dutch and bikes. we didn't have a Uno car. We had jacks and hopscotch. Now, they have the PlayStation. That's, believe it or not, your kids also need a break from you. So
That's a fact.
So why not just take that time and you have your moments in which on the weekends y'all might do cooking things or whatever. Yeah. Any time is a quality time for a child.
You gotta make it fun.
You gotta make it
Gotta
fun.
make it fun.
Our kids, for example, especially my youngest. When he gets to the time where he needs his me time, like, where you going?
I need to digress.
What?
Yes.
Our 8-year-old, I need to digress.
Now,
Do you, little brother? Do you go digress? Let me know when
All
you're
right,
recharged.
you're using big words.
Yes.
I like that.
I need to digress. Okay, but you're right. Some parents definitely need to digress. Because especially the single parent out there, it's tough out there. So, but most importantly, other than communication, the consistency, it's also good to have that. Well, what am I looking for? One of the 4 C's, compassion. Yeah. In today's society, I think compassion is missing a lot in the way especially in our Black communities. I hate to say it, because we tend to want to treat, especially our young African Black boys, our men, to be strong. So we don't show enough compassion. We want them to be bold and strong men and don't show your feminine side. But we talked about this in our first episode, right? It's okay for you to show compassion to your kids. Just like the scripture says, right? You can iron fist, but the left hand, you draw them closer. That's one of the things we preach a lot in Nigeria. You could discipline with your right hand, but you could show some love with your left. So maybe a little tab on it with your right, a little draw closer with your left. You've got to have that balance.
You know what? Before I learned that balance, my son had a lot of anger. but he was quiet. And I had to learn the balance because I didn't know. It's a 10-year difference between my kids. So I had to learn the balance. And what I have learned is that your child can be able to come to you and talk to you in their own time. You can initiate it and then just drop little seeds. And I had to get them to learn how to use his words. I had to teach him how to communicate all over again. And I'm going to tell you why this is important. Because in the black community, we're so used to fighting with this. And you see that in the school, you especially see it in the middle school, where they think it's a big thing to just drop and fight. And you see a lot of them yelling and screaming at each other, thinking they are just top dog because you're talking louder. I had to teach my son how to communicate and use his words, because his words is what's going to get you out of stuff. His words are what's going to save you. His words is something that you may need to have. You can't just get mad and throw your fist. One, you have to communicate. Two, you are a black male. The older you get, if you're pushing now and not communicating at 14, when you get 24, it's going to be way harder. Your consequences are going to be so much worse. And I started to get scared for my son, because I said, no, we have to switch this around. So if you're angry, you can talk and learn how to say what you have to say without being nasty, without being rude, but also learning how to get your point across. I had to give him keywords like, okay, I understand, but can you hear me out? And he literally had to practice that with his teachers, because he used to get upset. And the more he did it, the better communicator he became. He's not perfect.
It's a learning curve, you know.
It's a learning curve.
So for the children who they're introverts or they don't talk as much, or hold their feelings in, one of the things that I have practiced with my son is, like you said, if they're not ready to communicate, you can't force them. That's going to be a big no-no. But what I always say is, hey, I noticed something is wrong. Are you okay? You want to talk about it? No, I'm good, Mom. I said, okay, well, I'm here when you want to talk. So I'll leave out. I give him 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and then I just go back into the room. I don't say anything. I said, you mind if I just lay here? And I just lay there, and I'm just present. I don't say anything. That is just symbolizing to him, and he will remember, I hope, that I was there if he ever needed me. I'm still there. Never asked him again, but I do that. Or I'll say, hey, come lay with me. And he'll just come lay with me. We don't say nothing. He's on his phone, I may be on mine, and just the presence. And eventually he opens up, right? Takes him a little bit, but he opens up. So that's one technique for the introverted children, because we're living in a time, which I'm going to get to the next part of this topic. We're living in a time where suicide rates are high.
Yes.
Mental illnesses, we have to think about that. We're living in a time where social media is the bully. Not the person, well, people at school, they're bullies too, but that social media is key. We're living in a time now for, as parents, we have the George Floyd situations and that occur. We have the mass shootings at schools now. This time that we're living in is way different from when we were growing up. So how do you parent in this moment? How do you parent in this moment? I'll start it off to allow y'all some time. Every day, I pray.
Yeah.
Every day. Every day before I eat, I pray for my kids. I pray for you. And I pray for 2 other young men. I pray for protection from weapons, from drugs, and from racial targeting. Every day. There is no greater worry, I feel, than a mother of a black boy, son. No great, and I don't even care how old they are. I will always worry because we are in America.
Yeah.
And the one thing I teach my son is, of course, don't hit anyone unless they hit you. That's self-defense. I get that. But I also have started teaching him about a year or two ago of how to conduct themselves in front of a police officer.
Yeah.
What you look like if you have a hoodie on, if you go out. We have the discussions now because if you don't, they're going to be shocked when they leave out, at 18 years. And you're like, well, I don't know what this is all about. Because to be honest, they're very privileged. When I shouldn't say privileged, they're very fortunate to live in a suburban area, that is diverse. Now, they still hear the N-word, can't say it out loud. They still hear it, but they're very fortunate to be somewhat secluded from that, but they're still aware. So that's what I do for my children.
I think you're here to spot on, though. I think the biggest thing is the education part. Just educate your kids. Talk to them. Just like, for example, two Sundays ago on the way to church, got pulled over, and you were sitting next to me, and you're like, okay, you didn't say nothing at first, but I have seen the car at least 3 miles back. Came up behind me, then came on the side of me, and then slowed back down, and then turned his lights on. So, first of all, the only thing that came in mind to me is you already racial profiling. Because you could have pulled me over while you was behind me, but you came on the side of me, slowed down, then got back on behind me, and then pulled me over. But immediately, I asked him, hey, why did you pull me over? He said, because of my license plates was covered with smoke screen. Okay. Now, that already told me that you could have pulled me over when you were behind me, but you came alongside me. That's it. But I was telling my boys along the way, especially when I gave him my license, he went and ran my license, and I was explaining to the boys, hey, why do you think we're sitting here? Why is it back at his patrol car? I was educating them what the process is. So that way, if they ever find themselves in a situation, they know how to conduct themselves. Just stay calm, ask the right questions, oblige if you need to, and just sit there and hang tight. So you're absolutely right. Education is key when we actually talking about parenting nowadays, because we just need to get them exposed as much as we can to what goes on around them today, because it's completely different than when we were growing up. Our parents didn't have to, worry about us leaving the house in the morning and coming back at night. One, they automatically know when the porch light comes on, we're home. But now, we got 13, 14-year-olds staying past midnight because there's a lot of kids out there.
Really?
That stay out late. Yes.
That's true.
There's a lot of kids out there that their parents.
That's not mine.
Oh, definitely not mine. So I think education is one of the biggest factors that we have to remember to talk to our kids on a constant basis. And it just gives them the advantage to know more, because one, they're not exposed to it, but the more they hear about it, the more prepared they can be when they do see something, and it won't overwhelm them. Yeah.
I like that, because education does bring elevation. But I had to learn how to speak life to my kids. So even when they're doing things, I was like, you know what? You are so smart. You're going to be just an excellent leader. You see me do that. You are an excellent leader. I love how you those little words would give them the confidence to make them feel like they can do and conquer the world. It doesn't matter what type of size. You might not have the smartest child, but you can have the most confident child. And confidence does breed opportunities.
Oh, definitely.
So I a lot of praying, like you said, because we know where we are. But I don't ever want my child to feel like he's inferior, like he doesn't have a chance. Just because he is, our kids are entitled. Don't mean no harm. They are entitled. And I'm going to own that. But, we worked hard so our kids can have more than what we had. And our parents did the same thing for us. So I want them to understand that they can reach the moon and get past the stars just if they just apply effort and they can be confident with themselves and know that even though you may not have a lot, you can make it more than enough. So
It's funny you said that because we have a totally different, theory as far as
What's
what we
that?
tell the kids. She can say, "Hey, we're doing all this for y'all," and I'm looking at her and looking at them like, "Shoot." After she's gone, I'm like, "I ain't giving y'all nothing, okay?
But you compromise.
You better work hard and
You
get
know
what you can get."
You bring a big point because you got to be honest with your kids. Let me
You
tell you
really
something.
do.
A lot of times I was like, well, I'm going to do this and get this or whatever. And I'm like, well, no. Look, this month, I had to pay this, and this. We're not rich. Let me show you that these bills is, okay, I need you to deduct this, and this. Parents need to be real with their kids now, and let them know where you stand and where the household is and what you would need, because they have to understand it. I'm not a magical ATM.
That's right. The seed that you plant is what they reap.
Yeah.
So
Right.
gotta plant the right seed.
And they don't know if you don't tell
And you
them.
know what? I talk about money to my kids. I've showed them their 529 plans. I've showed them like, okay, look, Connie, you're not gonna have enough for college.
My son said too. Did you tell my son? He is sending me YouTube videos. You know you can invest in insurance policies. Look,
Connie, you ain't gonna have enough. Your brother made, because we started earlier with him. We ain't know what was doing with you, so my bad. I literally go over all the numbers with him. Like, I'm really serious. Sometimes we're in the grocery store, like for an 8-year-old. Mom, may I have one item? No.
Thank you.
And he's like, well, why? Because I'm not spending any extra money today. I purposely say no for some sometimes. But I want to go back to something you said too.
Right.
My therapist said a while ago. He said, "What is your child's love language?" I said, "What?"
Oh, go there.
And she said, "Yes. How does he like to receive love or affection?" So I thought about it for both my kids. So my oldest, he is words of affirmation. Mm-hmm. And my youngest, he's very touchy. The hugs and, things like that. The cuddlings, being around each other, So I use that in my parenting style. Mm-hmm. So whenever my oldest, he's doing something well, or if I'm very proud of him, or even if it could be something really small, man, good job. Thank you so much. I didn't even have to ask you to thank you, son. He don't want the hugs or nothing like that. But that thank you, and I'm proud of you, and you doing a good job. He walk around with his chest out and stuff like that. Same thing with my youngest son. Yeah. If I don't give him a hug, it makes his whole day just messed up.
And that's
so
I've
learn your kids how they like to receive it.
I'm more the man, get it done. I'm more the old ways. But it took me a while because you taught me that. Hey, just tell them thank you. And you're right. You see the whole demeanor change. It's like, okay, I see you. Okay, yeah, he does work like, okay, stuff don't stink no more after you say a little affirmations. Mm-hmm. But it's important, because not only that they are, showing some type of satisfaction, but gratitude that, okay, I'm being recognized for doing something good. My parents actually did recognize that I did that. So it's absolutely important to utilize those type of techniques with your children, because it also builds that relationship with you and your kids to the point where you can have that simple and easy communication amongst the two. So good points.
Children are built to want to be able to please their parents.
Definitely. We don't want to disappoint.
They're built. They're built for that. It's an innate to want to be able to be pleasing to our parents. God built us that way. That's why we have so many emotional issues when there is a breakdown in parental relationships, in which you feel like you may not be good enough, or you feel like you aren't enough, or you might feel like you have to have everything perfect.
Mm-hmm. You sure don't.
That comes because of the relationship and the things that happen, because parents are not perfect. Yeah. All kids are built to please. And I learned that. So that's why I say, speak life to your children.
Right.
Build up their self-esteem. Because a lot of times, especially, my son has had ADHD. And if you ever been with a child with ADHD, they are here, they're there, they're there, they're there. And you just like, stop. And you're fussing, and that's all they hear. And if you're fussing all the time, it makes them feel like maybe they're not doing anything right.
So
I
do
had to
you
reboot.
So do you find yourself in a place at a time where you just can't speak life because you just deflated? Or your child or your children have ran you off the wall to the point where, instead of speaking life, you just want to cuss them out? Because, it happens.
It happens. And that's when I go towards, and my kids know. He said yesterday, Mom, you getting tired of us today? He know. Because you know why? I stopped speaking. I just be like, okay, I give up. I literally, usually I'm and I need you now, stay on it. But when I just be like, okay. And you know what they do? They start to do things to make my life easier. And I'm like, why can't you just do that to not get me to this point? And I said, oh, I forgot. You're a man.
Oh, so it's a man thing. We'll take it.
That was a story. I want to say a story, but there's something that happened where a woman, she was just, the father wasn't there, and she was tired of being the mother, single parent mother. Mm-hmm. And she said, well, if the father doesn't have to take care of the child, why do I have to? I'm mentally exhausted. And she dropped her child off at, I think it was Child Protective Services. Literally. And so one of the things that they said was, normally if people say, you know what, I don't believe in abortions, then give it to a family who would take care of it. Mm-hmm. But that's what she did.
After the fact.
So they're saying, well, there's nothing wrong with what she did. And she was saying, like, right, when I get myself together, I'm going to get my child. Mm-hmm. And then the next day she posted out in these streets.
See,
so
I wasn't ready for
that. See, I wasn't ready for the end of that. Okay, I was actually agreeing. To the point where you say out in the street.
That's what I feel like on vacation sometimes.
But when you look at the whole scenario, none of us have room to judge anybody,
right?
Because as you stated earlier, you also have to think about the mental health. Mm-hmm. She might have gotten to the point where this is not feasible for her to continue anymore. So rather than going into a psychotic breakdown, it is best for me to just hopefully get herself together before assuming the parenting role again. But if you're out in the streets and I need you to stay home and claim your child back, that might help you in the long run. But it is great to identify your areas of opportunities early on. Rather than trying to force something that's not there. Not everybody is meant to be a parent.
That's true.
Not everybody doesn't have the skills to be a parent. So by understanding, those areas of opportunities and reacting to it and protecting that child's life, at times it's best for you to just, turn that child onto someone that could be a better fit as a parent for that child. Mm-hmm. So.
There's a theorist that came when we were doing human development. And I remember studying in which when you have two parents, one parent that is absent, which is the mother, will affect the child more than if the father was absent. Because the mother provides social emotional development. Mm-hmm. And if a child is not emotionally stable, they're not socially functional. Mm-hmm. Whether the father doesn't provide social emotional development.
Cognitive skills.
There you go. Mm-hmm. They can provide functional efficiency, those things. But that social emotional development, which is key in the first primary years of your child's life. That's why early education is so important.
Right.
Because we focus on the social, emotional, and cognitive skills.
That's why I love Canada. Canada, paternity leave in Canada is 18 months.
Okay.
Just
18 months?
18 months.
I gotta go to Canada.
just for that, so that way you can get emotionally attached to your baby before you even consider going back to work. And I think that's something that, should be a easy, adaptation all over the world. The longer you can take to develop that social connection with your child, the better the child's going to be. So, rushing back to work and things like that, that creates separation.
Yeah.
Because now you are not so much focusing on the child, you're focusing on everything else around you that you totally forgot the most important thing at that early stage. Mm-hmm. So
that's why I want the soft girl era. I just want to stay at home and be a wife.
I understand. But that ship is sailed.
I was getting ready to join you. I thought we was going to have a high five moment. I was told the same thing.
Oh, man. We are definitely enjoying this segment here. I can't believe it is past 8 o'clock already. We've been talking for an hour, and it just seems like we've been talking for like 10 minutes. Yeah, so to wrap this up, do you have anything you want to share? Any last remarks? Any affirmation you want to tell our viewers out there? Just especially the single parent out there, to keep them strong, to, don't throw in the towel, just keep it going. As you did for your parents, your kids is going to do for you, and that's sort of not so.
Well, you just said it.
I mean,
you said all of that. But what thing I can tell you is it's okay to be tired. You're not by yourself. It is important that you rejuvenate yourself so you can be functional emotionally as well as physically for your kids, because they need you. It is okay to be tired. It is okay to say, I'm going to shut it down for this day. I promise you, those lovely kids and birdies will be there the very next day, waiting, saying, Mama, Mama, Mama. These are for the sing. Even for the men, it's okay to make mistakes. Your child is going to love you. They love you anyway. They know that you're not perfect. They just want to know that you love them back.
Right.
So that's all I have.
All right.
Yeah, man.
The good book says, honor your father and your mother, and your days will be long on this earth. So whether you are parenting or you're one of the children, make sure you honor your parents, because we don't know all the answers, and they don't know all the answers. But honor them. Honor them the best way you know how, and you definitely will be successful. We definitely want to thank you all for joining us today. It has definitely been great. We do want to thank Joy Element for being our videographer today.
Big shout out to Joy Element.
Shout out and pun shot that for our pictures that you've been seeing on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube. We also want to thank our lovely, lovely co-host today.
Yes.
Sophonia Chambers Adeboyega.
Go ahead.
So if you'd like to close us out and let them know where they can find us.
Absolutely. Don't forget to follow us on every single platform: YouTube, Facebook, Spotify, Apple Podcast, everywhere. We are all over the place, so definitely tune in. And also, I just want to thank each and every one of our viewers tonight for tuning in. Continue to support us. Subscribe. And if you have anything that you want us to talk about, don't forget to drop that question in our email, BaseVybez@gmail.com.
All right. Thanks for watching.
Amen. And again, this is a platform where we have a conversation with Base and Vibes, and as always, with you in mind. Stay blessed.
BaseVybez. Speaking mind. BaseVybez. We chill. BaseVybez. We for real.